This is Denise Mathew, and today I'm going to do a tree of life ring. I did two different ways. I've made a few of these just to see how it works best, and I found that originally what I was doing was I was putting on the tree of life, the little wires in the center, and then wiring the ring part on. But I found that it's much easier just to wire the ring part on first and then to do the tree of life afterwards. Okay, so I have about half a foot of 20 gauge wire. You can use a heavier wire, but I find if your wire is a bit too heavy, then what happens is it's more difficult to work with. So all you're going to do is just take your round nose pliers and you're just going to curl the end a little tiny bit, and that's just really to grab onto the loop. I'm working with a 20mm hammered gold circle. You can use a bigger, smaller, whatever you want. I found that much smaller than this, it's a little too difficult to work with. But again, if you want to go with a bigger ring, you could go with that, a bigger size. So all you're going to do is just take that little curl of wire that you've just put around there, and that's just to help you to get it around the base of the circle. So I've squeezed that loop a little bit tighter on the base of the circle, and then now I'm just going to do just a couple of wraps just to try and stabilize it. So just guiding it through your wire right through, and it's a little bit stiff because it's a little bit of a heavier gauge. So just hold on to your wire, and you will notice that your wire will roll when you're trying to do the wrapping. That will become more stable as you work it, so don't worry about that. So now that you have it a couple of times looped around the end of the side of your ring, you're just going to take it and put it either on whatever you're working with, a ring mandrel or a dowel, and you're just going to size it to the size you want. Now, so if you're making a size 7 ring, you would go to a size 6 because we'll size it up after it's done. Okay, so just go to a size 6 and then just put it right there like that. And then take your wire and just guide it right through like that. So then just do 2 coils here, because you want to have it sort of, actually 3 coils, because you want to have it as even as possible. So the other side is the same size, because you're going to go back over to the other side and do 1 more coil over here. Okay, so if you wanted to just start with a 1 coil on one side and then just do 2 on this side and then go back and do another one, you could do that as well. I like the 3. I just find it holds it a little bit better, but as you're working this, you'll notice it's getting tighter, okay? And that's what you want. Okay, so now that I have 3 coils here, I'm just going to go to the other side. So move it right around to the back side, like that. All right, so this is what you would have. And then you're just going to take that wire and just kind of guide it right through. And this is just going to shut the ring. And as you know, and as you'll notice, you will get tighter, the ring will get tighter and more taut. And again, we will wire harden it afterwards, so it's perfectly stable for wearing. Okay, so just go, just 1 more, and that's just gonna, okay, and then I'm just gonna trim that off. Okay, so it's fairly even, but it doesn't really make a difference, because what's going to happen is after you start wiring the tree of life in the center of it, it will sort of cover up those it'll cover up those wires a bit. So it's pretty stable already. So this is what you would have. You're just going to I have about 6 wires, and these are about a 26 gauge, and that's only because they fit my beads. So it's better to work with a smaller gauge wire because you are going to need to use tiny beads that will fit inside this circle. Okay, so just take your, and I've done a full tree of life video. It's very similar to the same one. So if you want extra help with that, you can. I'm just twisting sort of more to the sort of 3/4 in. I'm twisting. And don't twist too much because you can snap your wires. So it would be as a tree. So you imagine this is going to be your branches, right? And then below will be your roots. So you don't want as much root as you would want branches. So just kind of spread your wires out like that. And then just take your chain nose pliers and just start to roll those wires in. You can trim them up. You don't really have to worry about using all the wire up. It's fine. I'm just literally just rolling them in and around the of the circle just to make sure that they're in there and they're not going to move on me. Okay, and then I can tuck them in better after I've got them sort of in the place where I want them. This will require a bit of patience, this ring, just because it is a small ring and it's a small workspace, and so again, just keep that in mind. So now that I've got a few more, so I'm just grabbing hold of these wires and I'm just wrapping them around the base of the circle. Okay, so now that you have it all wrapped, okay, you have it all stabilized on the bottom. Just go back, see if there's any stray wires that are not, not exactly where they're supposed to be, and again, trim anything that is way too long. So that one's way too long. So I'm just gonna trim that one, and then just tuck everything in. You just don't want any sharp bits out because that will catch in your clothes or something like that. All right. If you noticed when I was working with it, it kind of came untwisted. That's okay. Just go in and just do a little bit more of a twist. Okay, and that'll be your trunk. There we are. Okay, so now that we're there, we're just going to start to spread these out a little bit. Okay. Now if you want to do 8 wires, you can. I just decided on the 6 because the workspace is really small and I find that it works better. At this point you can start to twist some of these branches. This is where it doesn't really matter how you do it. It's really your preference. You can, like, if you just want to have, I'm doing bunches of 2. If you wanted to have bunches of like 1 bunch or something like that. I mean, this is just a bit more uniform, but don't twist it up too much. So you're just going to twist them a little bit on the bottom. Now you just want to have it spread out a little bit like that. And this is the time you can start to add your beads. And again, there's no hard and fast rule for how to add your beads or where you want them. These are 1mm amethyst beads, and they work perfectly for this. Anything you can use around a seed bead would work well for this. And push them down like that. Okay, so now you're just starting to add them on. And again, you can just stabilize the wires as you go, just a little bit, but not too much, because if you want to go back and add another bead or something like that, but what it'll do is it'll get it out of your workspace, so it's stabilized, the beads are going to stay on, and then you can just continue on and start adding. And again, it's a tree, so trees are organic looking, so you just decide what works best for you. So you're just going to continue doing that, and push them all to the side like that, and then just bring it up here. And if you notice, as I'm going, the wires of the Tree of Life are sort of pushing against the coil, so they're not as obvious as they were before. Okay, so I'm just finishing up here. Okay, so I've done most of the put most of the beads on, and now I'm just going to start to finish off the wrapping. So some I'm okay with, and some, like I said, I might have to unwrap that one loop. So I'm just going to start to wrap this loop, and if you don't want to have too much around it, you can trim it back a little bit if you find the wires a bit too long. But I'm just going to start wrapping these around the base of the circle, wrapping it a couple times, and now that one's stabilized. Okay. And then the next one. So just wrapping that around a few times. Now you can be very uniform with your wrappings. I generally go with an organic appearance, but again, just do whatever feels right for you. And I don't think I need all that wire, so I'm just going to trim back a little bit. Okay. So this is what we have so far. And then just the last couple of same thing. Sometimes the hardest part is just trying to find the wire when it's coming through to the other side when you're trying to wrap it around. So just make sure it's straight. Use your wire straightening pliers if you have them to straighten out the wire. That way it's just easier to show up. Okay. Again, you can push these together. Use your pliers to push them together. And all of these wires are fairly long, so I'm just going to trim them back. That way it'll be easier for me to wrap them in. I've tucked all my wires in. I've gone to the back side and trimmed anything that's sharp back there, tucked everything in really well. What you want to do is you can sort of push the wires a little bit, adjust a little bit. If you want to go in, you can adjust the trunk. You can, just whatever you want to do just to finish the ring. And the last thing you're going to do is you're just going to put it back on the ring mandrel and check your size. And all you're going to do now is I'm going to hammer out the ring, and I'm going to size it up, bring it up to a size 7, but I'm also going to wire harden it so it'll be more stable for wearing. So I've sized it up, and now it's a size 7, and I've wire hardened all the back sides so that it's easier for wearing, and that would be your finished ring. So this concludes the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye for now.